So I call the hospital and I get like the main switchboard or whatever because it's the weekend. And I'm like, oh, I'm calling for labor and delivery. And they're like, I think they're closed on the weekends. And I was like, I'm pretty sure they're open. Babies are still born on the weekends.
I'm Kayla Heater, follower of Jesus, wife and mother of 6 children, Christian childbirth educator and doula, and your host of the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, where we share God-centered birth stories, evidence-based birth education, and our pursuit of surrendering our birth plans to God. Let's get started. Well, happy week, everybody. Happy Monday. Great start to the week. We are starting school back today. We kind of took pretty much July off of homeschooling. We do a January to Thanksgiving year here for our homeschool instead of the traditional August to May. And, we take days and weeks and things off throughout the year, but we pretty much took all of July off because of travel and because my kids had some camps they were involved in. And so I'm all prepped and ready to start back tomorrow, full speed. In other news, if you listened to the episode last week, you would have heard my husband do the intro. I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you, husband, because I had just been awake for 60 some hours and gotten home from a very long birth and then had to teach my birth class last Sunday night. So did that and then came home, ate food and crashed really hard because I'd been up for so long. But it was totally worth it. It always is. But it was extra worth it because it was my sister. So if you've been listening to the podcast at all, you would have known that my sister is pregnant with her first baby. And I got to be there with her pretty much every moment of the whole thing. And she is now a mommy. And I'm so excited to be an aunt. And I've already gotten to go over there several times and just help with breastfeeding and nursing and all the different early postpartum stuff. And I can't wait to go back again. So sweet. So my sister is a mom and that is where I was last weekend. Pretty much the whole weekend I was there, Friday evening through Sunday afternoon. It's a long birth, but anyways, very happy for her. Very excited. I also am, and actually I'm going to share her little birth announcement on the Instagram page. So if you want to go see what my sister's ridiculously, incredibly adorable baby girl looks like, you can head over to Instagram and her picture will be in my stories. But my voice is shot. I taught a private birth class all day yesterday, and just talked for 6 hours straight. And then taught another birth class tonight. Actually, we had a worship night last night that I was singing worship at, and then church this morning, and then taught another class tonight. So, and starting back at school tomorrow. So I'm really going to have to find some time to rest my voice between now and next week's class just to give it a break because it definitely feels very, very raw. But I'll do one more thing here and read the introduction for this week, and then I will take a break from talking for the rest of the evening. When your mom has had 6 natural births, 5 of which were in the hospital, and 1 home birth that wasn't actually a great experience, it's only natural that you'd want to have a hospital birth. So when Miriam got pregnant with her first, that's just what she chose. And thankfully, this specific hospital was actually quite accommodating for a hospital, and she had a great midwife team and an amazing volunteer doula. As her births continued, and as she became more and more educated, she realized her deep desire for a home birth, but she would have to surrender that desire to the Lord in order to experience His peace during her pregnancy and lean into His timing, not hers. Well, welcome to another episode of Surrendered Birth Stories. I am your host, Kayla Heater, and I have Miriam with me today. Miriam, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us about you and your family and your life and help us get to know you.
Well, like you said, I'm Miriam. I just turned 25 and also just celebrated 7 years of marriage.
Yay!
We have three kids, 3 kids in 7 years, and I'm in just got into my third trimester for my fourth baby. So almost 4 kids in 7 years. Yeah, wedding night baby. And we just didn't stop after that. I am a lover of Jesus, coffee, birth, baking, all that type of stuff. I try to live like a low tox life as much as my budget allows.
Uh-huh.
And we homeschool our kids. Well, just my first so far, but we plan to homeschool all of our kids. So we are finishing up kindergarten and we'll be going into first grade. And a side note about me is I have Hashimotos, which will become relevant later on in my story. So that is like a thyroid disorder.
Yeah.
So I've had that diagnosed about 10 years ago with that. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, other than the Hashimotos, we have a lot in common. With everything you said, I'm like, birth, yes. Coffee, yes. Baking, yes. Low tox, homeschool, yep. All of those things. I just applaud you though, because you're 25, and when I was 25, I didn't know about 90% of that stuff. I was having a baby, but I had no idea like what I was doing or I had no clue about birth and was just like going in blind. So I'm like looking over here like, wow, imagine like if I would have known then what I know now at 25, like, wow, where would I even be? But the Lord, he has plans and he takes us on the journey, and I feel like gives us information when we need it and when he thinks we need it. So
yeah. And I mean, that's where I started out, 7 years ago too. I turned 18. I went and applied for my marriage license on my 18th birthday and got married 4 days later. I grew up in more of a natural kind of family. We kind of grew up not like totally off grid, but kind of off grid. We bought things in bulk. We, grew up on the farm. We had gardens and chickens and animals and all that type of thing. And like my parents didn't really do the vaccines. And so I had like a certain amount of it going into, but like as far as like birth, I didn't know anything about birth. And I didn't really know why we did the things that we did growing up,
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of learning in the last 7 years. So
did your husband grow up like in a similar way, or did he have to like learn all of it?
Oh, no. No, now he's like, oh, I cut my finger. I went and put some lavender on it. And I'm like,
oh, so proud.
I'm like, I'm having a proud wife moment here. You totally got that for me. His family, I mean, they grew up not vaccinating. So we both grew up with that in common. But other than that, I would say like he grew up in a much more standard home, I guess. Like they, had more processed foods and didn't really have animals. And, they had the smelly things in their houses, stuff like that.
He grew up like most of us. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I guess, well, my dad had cancer growing up. And so we didn't have a lot of those, smelly things and chemicals and stuff in our house growing up because like his body couldn't tolerate it. And so like that was a portion of it too. But yeah, we definitely came from like very different upbringings, I would say.
Yeah. So if you were 18 when y'all got married, how old was he?
I think he would have been 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like a few years apart. Were your parents, I always get interested, were your parents like super excited for you, or were they nervous for you, or like, how did that go down?
They were totally excited. Like, cause like they kind of like friends of friends kind of knew each other, kind of like they weren't like close friends, our parents, but like they kind of knew who each other was. And like, they both knew that like came from like godly Christian families. And they like, even though we were very uneducated and like, it's only by God's grace that we've made it this far, like being so spiritually immature, when we got married, like, I just look back and I'm like, wow, like God has been so faithful to get us this far, you know?
Yeah.
They were really excited about it because they were both just happy that, you know, we were marrying people that were of the same belief, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I always tell people I would have married my husband at 17 if I was allowed to.
Yeah.
We didn't get married till I was 22, but I would have married him at 17. We dated 7 years before we got married because we met at 15. But it's so funny because when we were getting married, I was 22 and lots of people were telling us like, oh, you're so young. Like, why are you getting married already? Like, you're so young, like go live your life. And I'm like, no, I want to live my life with my husband, like together. And so now that we have kids, we're always like, I hope our kids get married young. Like, I hope that they, meet someone, a godly man, godly woman, and get married young and start having babies. So,
like, I don't know. It makes me laugh when people are like, "Oh, I got married so young. I was like 25," and I was like,
"You're like, I'm 4 kids in at 25."
Yep. So, but like everyone, it depends on, what kind of culture you grow up in, I think, because like I'm Scandinavian and my husband is Scandinavian as well. And in our culture, it's very normal to get married like anywhere between 17 and 22. And if you go above that, it's like, wow, you're like an old maid.
That's so funny.
So yeah, it's culture, I think, is a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into your birth stories. So take us back. You have 3 kids. You're pregnant with your 4th. Take us back to, I guess, your wedding night, girl. Take us back to your wedding night. We don't need the details, but I mean, where was that the goal of like wedding night was to like make a baby?
No, so not really. So obviously, like being a Christian, we had, the firm conviction to wait until marriage. And so we just went into marriage kind of just like I had, a past with my thyroid stuff, and like my periods had just been like irregular and really painful. And at one point I went on birth control for 3 months to try to help with the pain because, when you go to the doctors and you tell them I have painful periods, that's what they do with you. And we didn't know what else to do. So after that, and my periods were all messed up and with my thyroid stuff, I was like, I don't even know if I can have babies. And in our culture too, a lot growing up, people didn't prevent pregnancy. Like it was like frowned upon. And so me and my fiance at the time hadn't really developed a firm conviction about that. And so we were just like, we're just going to go into it and see what happens, because I don't really expect that I would get pregnant right away with my health history. But yeah, no, that's not what happened. It was like, I want to say like a weekend, not even like, and I was like, something is feeling weird. I'm like, something feels off.
Like the weekend after you got married?
Yeah, the week after we got married. And so we were on our cruise and I was just like, I just don't feel very normal. And I'm like, and I don't get seasick. So I don't think that it's like seasick because cruise ships are big. It's hard to get seasick on a cruise ship. But yeah, I was like, something just feels weird. But I was like, how in the world could it be, that quick? So we get back from our honeymoon. Mind you, that was only like a week and a half long. Our honeymoon was very short.
Oh, that sounds good to me. I'll take a week and a half.
We just go about, newlywed life, which was really difficult. We actually went from a long distance relationship to then living together. And so it was quite the adjustment for us. So I remember just like taking a test one day and I like left it in the bathroom and just like went and did cleaning and stuff. And I went back in there, like, I don't know, it was like 40 minutes later. And I looked at it and I was like, how? This is positive. This is crazy. So I like told my husband that later that day, then like after work. And then of course he wants to tell his mom right away because he's like so excited. His mom and him are really close. And she's like, how in the world? You guys have been married like
2 seconds,
3 weeks or something. Like, I don't even know. Like it wasn't long. Like, I don't know if I had even quite missed a period yet, or I had just missed a period. Like it was only like, it had to have been not even 3 weeks.
You had to have been like in your fertile window, like on your honeymoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was crazy. And she's like, how in the world? And I was like, well, when 2 people love each other very much.
Right.
So yeah, of course they were like so excited. It was the first grandbaby on my side of the family and his side. So it was like a big deal. And I was like, don't tell anyone else. Like, I didn't want to tell anyone for a while, but then my husband told everyone because
He's
he
so
wanted
excited.
so excited. And so I just was like, okay, where do I go from here? I had moved from Texas, where I live now. I lived there when we got married. I moved to New Hampshire with my husband after we got married. And so like I wasn't really familiar. My mom had grown up in that area, but I wasn't familiar with like the healthcare system, what was available or anything like that. And so I just started like asking around, like, okay, who do I go to for care? And I had like automatically thought like, oh, I'm going to go to the hospital, right? Because that's like what everyone does.
Right.
And my mom had 6 babies and she had 5 of them in the hospital. And the one she had at home was a really poor experience. Like the midwife just sounded like she just didn't have a great midwife. And so she had a poor experience. And so knowing that, I was like, well, I don't really want to pursue that avenue because all I knew at the time was negative things about home birth. And so I ended up going to the hospital that like a lot, like my mother-in-law and a lot of her sisters and sister-in-laws had gone to in the area, which was the maternity care was actually run by midwives. So like the entire maternity unit, and it's a pretty small hospital. It was run by midwives and I didn't have an issue with, I don't know. I liked it. I just went in and I was like, hey, I want to do unmedicated birth. That's what my mom did. So that's what I am going to do too. They actually had volunteer doulas through the hospital. So I ended up with this angel of a lovely Christian older woman. She literally, thank God for her. I don't know like where I would be today without her. Like she was amazing.
Like during your birth, she was with you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just did like most of the normal stuff. I mean, they just did the 120-week scan. They were super non-invasive. And then like, I remember for some reason not wanting to do the glucose drink. So they let me do the jelly beans instead.
Nice.
And then they just kept an eye on my thyroid levels and we had to tweak my medication accordingly for that. And other than like the mental load of it, I actually had like really bad prenatal depression during that pregnancy, which I didn't know was a thing at the time. And so I was having a really hard time, like being 18, got married, moved away from my family. I'm pregnant. I have prenatal depression. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I'm broken. Like, so emotionally, it was a really challenging pregnancy. But as far as physical goes, it was like very low intervention and just simple, easy pregnancy.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's, I mean, physically speaking, that's good.
yeah.
But emotionally, I mean, I'm sure everything you just said, I'm like, just got married, just moved, just got pregnant, like all the things at 18. Like that is going to be a lot. So did you have his family around you then during that time, even though your family was gone?
Yeah. So his family lived in the area and, I would spend some time with them, but I also hadn't like really crawled out of my shell really at that point yet. So I like had a hard time opening up to people.
Yeah.
I was dealing with like some emotional trauma from my childhood and stuff like that. So I just had a really hard time like opening up to people. And yeah, I mean, we would go and see them, but like during the day while he was at work, I didn't really have people to hang out with because all my friends at the time were young and they were working,
Yeah.
Then I couldn't get a job because I just moved there and I was like, well, then I'm gonna have to quit.
Right. Because
And
you're pregnant. Yeah.
so yeah, I kind of just had like not really much to busy my time with. And so it kind of just left me in not a great place. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I made it through and yeah, all the way up till like 38 weeks, I was just doing normal things. And then at my 38-week appointment, they for some reason had a doctor doing the exam that day instead of a midwife. I don't know if the midwives were just busy or whatever, because obviously they do have OBs there for, like the higher risk women and stuff. But for some reason, my appointment just happened to be the doctor that day. And so they were like, oh, can we check your cervix? And I was like, oh, I didn't know any different. So I was like, sure, go ahead. And they're like, oh, you're already 3 centimeters dilated. I was like, oh, okay. Like I'd been having prodromal labor for, I don't know, I think 2 weeks at that point. And so, yeah, 38 weeks, she's like, yep, you're 3 centimeters. So I went home and I was like, okay, whatever, you know. And then I went into labor, like, it would have been, I think, 3 days after that. So
Just like at home, chilling, contractions started.
so I woke up in the morning on a Saturday morning and I was like, these contractions are just like, are they something? Are they nothing? There was no pattern to them. They kind of would come when they wanted to and go when they wanted to. And then they would be like doubled up on each other. Some of them were like 7 minutes long, 9 minutes long, 2 minutes long, a minute long. Like they were just really, the pattern was really weird.
You mean like 7 minutes apart?
No, like a 7 minute long contraction.
Well, that's really long.
It was the weirdest thing. So I was like, I don't know what to do. And my mother-in-law was like, well, I mean, she said you were 3 centimeters dilated already, like the other day. So maybe you should just go in and, if they don't like, they can check you and they can just send you home, but at least just go get checked out. And so we're like, okay. So we didn't even take our hospital bags or anything with us. We're like, we'll just go get checked out. So we went in and they're like, oh, you're 4 centimeters. We'll keep you. So we're like, okay. We like texted the doula and texted my mother-in-law and was like, oh, can you bring our stuff for us? So they brought our stuff over and the doula came and met us and a whole lot of nothing happened.
Right. Because you were in early labor.
Yeah. Because knowing what I know now, I just needed to go back to bed,
Yeah.
But after, I've been going on like 2 to 3 weeks of prodromal labor. I'm just like, I'm so over this. Like, get this baby out of me. I'm so done.
Yeah.
So I was there for a few hours and they checked me again. They're like, well, I mean, you really haven't progressed at all. Maybe you should just go back home. And I'm like, I literally started bawling. I was like, I don't want to go back home. I'm done. Like, I'm not going to go back home.
Yeah.
And well, my water was leaking then, we discovered. And so they're like, oh, well, since your water's leaking, we can keep you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, my doula and we did everything in the book. We did the stairs, the lunges, the everything. He was posterior when we first got in there, which we got him flipped. And I think that helped with like the really long contractions and that kind of thing. But it was like, if I would lay down, the contractions would stop. And if I was, doing things, or no, when I was doing things, they would stop. And when I would lay down, they would start. I can't remember. But anyways, they were not normal and I should have just gone home. I should have never left home. But, it's the first time mom and you just don't know what you don't know. And so, yeah, I mean, we went for 12 hours doing everything that we could think of. And my cervix hadn't changed or anything. And so they're like, I mean, you can keep doing what you're doing. We can do therapeutic rest. Like, what would you like? Like, do you want to just keep on as you're going? I was like, what is this therapeutic rest? I'm exhausted and rest sounds amazing.
Rest sounds good.
Yeah. They're like, well, it's just a shot of morphine. And then we'd send you over to your postpartum room and, you and your husband can just get comfortable there. There's a nicer bed in there and you guys can just go to sleep and get some rest. And I was like, sounds good. So that's what I did. I got the shot of morphine and we went to bed and they would just come in and they didn't do like the constant monitoring there. She would just come in with the Doppler and check, every hour or 2 hours or however often it was and check the baby's heartbeat and he was doing good. And so we just slept until I felt like things were starting up again. And then I should have slept longer, but I didn't. And I got up. So by the morning time, I mean, it had been like, 24 hours since I had been there. And they're like, if you still haven't changed at all, at this point, we should probably start talking about, maybe breaking your water or doing something. But like, they were very respectful that they knew that I wanted a very low intervention birth. And they were really happy to work with me as much as, they could. And so they're like, you know what, eat some breakfast, pray about it and we'll come back and check you and, see how you're doing. And that was the other thing. They really encouraged me to eat.
That's good. Because
they wanted me to keep my body going. And so, yeah, I ate breakfast. We prayed about it. They came back and they're like, you know what, you're 5. So we're not going to do anything. But it'd be really good if you got up and got walking. So my doula and I went out walking much to my displeasure. I was exhausted and didn't feel like doing that. At that point, I was just like, I don't feel like it.
Did she go home and sleep while you guys were
She
sleeping?
did.
Okay.
Yeah, she did. And then she came back, bless her soul. I mean, my whole labor was like 34 hours, and like 32 of those hours I was at the hospital. So she probably put in, I don't know, probably 24 hours of her time. And this was all like, she did this of her own free accord. She just did it as a volunteer. Like she got paid nothing for it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she was amazing. So
did your contractions start back up again, like when you got up in the morning?
Yeah, they did. They had started to like in the middle of the night. And so I had got up and, gotten the birth ball and, done whatever. But they didn't really start ramping up until we went walking after they checked me and they said I was a 5. We went walking. Of course, we went the farthest away from the labor and delivery unit down to the cafeteria. We're just, this is right before COVID broke out. So you could do that still.
Yeah. I was going to say that's amazing because the hospitals around here, they won't let you leave the floor. They won't let you leave the unit. You have to walk the unit halls.
No, this is a really small hospital. Like they were just like, you can walk wherever, just come back every 2 hours to, do a 20-minute NST pretty much.
Yeah.
And they like trusted my doula too. Cause like she's worked with the hospital and she's like, works through the hospital. So I think part of it was that too.
Yeah.
And so, I went down there and I was in the bathroom. I stopped in the bathroom to go pee. My water broke into the toilet. Nice. And I stood up and I was like, oh my goodness. And I didn't even think to like check the color of the fluid, nothing. I just flushed it and went back out and like almost doubled over. Cause then obviously the cushion's gone, and told my doula, I was like, my water just broke. And she's like, oh my goodness, praise the Lord. She's so excited, And so I was like, this hurts really bad now. So of course, we're the farthest away from the L&D unit at that point. So we would truck all the way back up to the unit and are telling the nurses, yep, her water broke on the way back, sneak back into our room. And so, after that, it was pretty active labor. And I think it was only 5 hours or something after that my baby was born. I just remember transition being a beast. I was on the toilet for that. And then I went limp. And I was just like, I have no life left in me. I'm just completely and utterly exhausted. And then, he was born. I was on my side. I pushed on my side, I think for like 49 minutes or something. So really not horrible for a first
time. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a long, exhausting situation. I held him at first and he did latch just at first. And then after that, I was just like, I'm so exhausted. I pretty much just passed out of exhaustion. And they're like trying to stop whatever bleeding is going on and whatever. I don't know if I like borderline hemorrhaged or I was just bleeding extra from a tear, but they were giving me things for bleeding and whatever else. And then, they're like, do you want me to stitch you? And I was like, do I have to? And she's like, I mean, technically no. And I was like, then don't touch me. I don't want anything.
Yeah.
I'm so done.
Keep your legs together and it'll heal up.
Yeah. So 38 weeks and 4 days. My son is born at 8:12
p.m.
No, 8 pounds, 12 ounces.
Oh. I thought you meant time of day.
Inches long.
20.
No, I actually don't even remember what time. 21 inches long.
21. Oh.
So he was a bit of a chunky.
It's a good size baby for 38 weeks.
Yeah. Everyone was like, where did he come from? And I'm like only 5'4". I'm not like very tall. So they're like, where did you fit him? And I was like, I don't know. But we stayed there for that night. And then I think the next night maybe, and went home, and postpartum was excruciating.
Okay. Tell us why. Why was postpartum so excruciating? Whether you are pregnant with your first baby or wanting to have a different birth experience for a subsequent delivery, this is the fully comprehensive Christian childbirth course for you, the Surrendered Birth Course. With over 10 years of experience as a childbirth educator, a birth doula, and having had 5 kids myself, almost 6, I have created a course fit for every mama out there who wishes to be fully informed on all things pregnancy, labor, birth, postpartum, and breastfeeding, while remembering to keep Jesus at the center of it all. Our God created a beautiful design for birth, something to look forward to and not something to be feared. Not only will this course get you prepared for your birth, but it will also get you excited for it. It will answer questions you never knew you had and teach you things you didn't realize were so incredibly valuable and central to the entire birthing process. I've had numerous couples on their second, third, or even fourth babies who've taken this course and said how incredibly glad they were and that they learned so much more than they ever thought they would. With over 12 hours of video content, 5 modules, numerous lessons, detailed PDF printout notes, and endless resources, we dive deep into pregnancy, labor, the risks and benefits of interventions, inductions, immediate and extended postpartum for both mom and baby, everything you need to know about breastfeeding, and basic newborn care. This course covers everything. Once you've taken the course, I am available to you for any questions you might have during a monthly live Q&A Zoom call exclusive to our online course audience, as well as through email. The course is on demand, so as soon as you purchase it, you'll be able to start right away and re-watch any lessons as many times as you need. Whether you are planning a medicated hospital birth or an unmedicated birth at a birth center or home birth, this course will prepare you in every way that you can be prepared. While I understand the desire to take a specific hospital or home birth course catered to your specific birth plans, birth doesn't always go how we plan. And having the knowledge of how birth can go in other environments outside of our plans is essential. Most importantly, I will help you to surrender these plans to God. And in return, the Holy Spirit will provide you with the peace that only He can give. For more information on the course, to read testimonials of others who have taken it, or to sign up for the course, just click the link in the show notes. And lastly, remember, just like we say here every week on the podcast, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands. Okay, tell us why. Why was postpartum so excruciating?
So I had a bilateral labial tear.
Oof.
And
they didn't
I had
stitch that.
Well, I mean, you know how like the midwives, they try to be like very respectful of your autonomy if you don't want to have stitching, because a lot of people do opt not to get stitching.
Yeah.
So she had given me the option for it, but I was just like, don't touch me anymore. Like, I just want to be done.
Yeah.
So like I had told her I didn't want it, not knowing that there's a difference between a labial tear and a perineal tear.
Yeah.
And I just thought that a tear is a tear and it will heal and it'll be fine. But I could barely get up or sit down or go pee for weeks. It was excruciating. I certainly couldn't like go pee without a peri bottle for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, then we had brought him into his 2-day appointment, and then he ended up spending the night for jaundice. And so we were back in for a night, and then COVID hit. And so then typically they would do a 2-week and a 6-week appointment, but both of those were over the phone since like COVID had just hit.
Mm.
And then for some reason, the 2-week appointment was over the phone with a midwife. And then the 6-week happened to be a doctor that called me, and she's like, oh, yep, you're fine. You can, do whatever. Do you need a contraceptive or anything? And I was like, nope, well, we're just planning to do condoms. And she's like, okay, because we can get you in right away. And I'm like, funny how that works. You can get me in to place a contraceptive, but you can't get me in for a 6-week exam.
That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
COVID times were crazy.
COVID times. Yes. So it ended up being like, I was 8 weeks postpartum when I was like, I just can't do this. I can't be intimate with my husband. I'm still uncomfortable down there. Something must not be right. So I ended up going back in, and I had an appointment with one of the midwives, and she's like, you have glandular tissue. Like, this is not healed. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. What is that? And then she did a swab, and I actually had bacterial vaginosis as well. So I went on an antibiotic for that, and I did an estrogen cream for the
Granulation
granular tissue. And then I think it was a couple weeks after that, I was fine. It healed up, thankfully.
Wow.
So,
and it's like, had someone just been checking up on you postpartum,
yeah,
you would have figured that out much sooner and healed much sooner and all the things. Postpartum care, man, that's where it's at.
I know, it really is. And like my mom, her youngest baby was like 19, and my mother-in-law had C-sections for all her babies. So like I didn't really have anyone to ask. And then like all of my friends were like, I was the first one in my friend group to get married. So I didn't really have like a great support system to talk to and just be like, is this normal?
Yeah.
Because like nowadays I would have like, a handful of moms I could text and be like, is this normal? And they could tell me, but back then I didn't really have anyone to ask. So, you live and you learn. And yeah, I mean, he didn't sleep either, which also was hard for recovery. Is like when you have a baby that sleeps at least a few hour stretches makes the world of difference. He didn't like to sleep at all. The whole first baby was just a very rough transition. So
it's a lot.
I remember just telling my husband, I was like, we aren't doing this for at least another year. I was like, we're not doing this.
Not doing it again for a while. Yeah.
And then what happens is my baby turns 1. And I remember I had got my period back like almost immediately after he was born. But I remember starting my period on his first birthday, like for that month. And we got pregnant that cycle. So intentionally. Somehow the Lord changed my mind.
I always say it's amazing the confidence you get back when they turn 1. Like that's happened with me with all my babies. Pretty much they turn 1 and I'm like, cool, great. I got this. Like we can do this. And that's usually when like some sort of baby fever starts to creep in a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they're not quite a little baby anymore.
I know. They grow up so fast. And then it's like, I felt like I was like, he still wasn't sleeping great, but at least I was like in a lull. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was getting through it. And
were you nursing him?
Yes, I was. Which like the first few months I did have to use a nipple shield. It was a little difficult. We had a little difficult start. I think because he was taken off of me when I like passed out right after he was born. And then other people were holding him and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think like that disconnect kind of made the nursing journey a rough start. So we did use a nipple shield for a couple months, but then after that, then he did fine. But I did nurse him till he was 14 months, and he, had that 14 months sleep regression. I would have been like 8 weeks pregnant. And I remember being so exhausted, like beyond tired. Like he would wake up. I couldn't put him back to sleep. He would just be up in the night. And I didn't really ask my husband for help in the night either. Cause I was like, well, he has to get up and go to work in the morning,
Yeah. Well, first trimester fatigue plus a sleep regression with your current baby getting up at night, that combo's got to be excruciating.
Yeah. And then I was nursing too. And with my thyroid stuff, it was just like, I was to the point of like delusion.
Yeah.
We lived in a 2nd-story apartment and I literally like thought about jumping off the railing. Like it was,
man.
The exhaustion was to the point of delusion. And I would just sit on the floor and sob and just beg God to make my baby sleep. I was like, you can part waters. You can raise the dead.
You can make
Please
this baby
make
sleep.
my baby sleep.
Do you feel like there was anything else going on with him, like in terms of why he wasn't sleeping?
I don't know. He would just wake up several times a night and then I would nurse him. And then when I would try to put him back in his crib, he would wake up.
Okay.
And I was too scared to have him sleep in our bed because my husband was like a really like dead sleeper.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, if he sleeps in the bed, I'm going to be scared of him falling off or my husband rolling over him. And so like, I couldn't do like the co-sleeping thing.
Uh-huh.
Or at least I thought I couldn't. And so like every time I would try to put him back in his crib, he would just wake back up.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to be next to me. So I don't know what his thing was. And so finally I was like, well, something's got to give. I've got to stop nursing at least. I've got to stop. I got to wean him because at least that will take something off, the stress load that my body is going through. And honestly, I don't remember whatever even happened. Like he never really even started sleeping through the night for a long time, I don't think, but at least the regression was gone. So it wasn't like he was up so many times a night.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, that pregnancy was a lot better. I was able to stay like more active. Mentally, I did a lot better. Physically, I was pretty good.
Had you like made some friends or like community at that point?
Um, a little bit. Yeah. I'd gotten to know like some of my husband's cousins and like things like that. I'd gotten to know a little bit more people. I wouldn't say like I had a really great community, but I at least got to know some other people.
Yeah.
And so I think just like staying more active and stuff helped a lot too. And
Yeah.
then I had gotten pregnant in March. And so then it was also sunnier. And in New Hampshire in the winter, like it's very common for people to get seasonal depression. So I think
Yeah.
that also didn't help my,
Yeah.
first pregnancy with it being in the winter. And so, yeah, this baby was due in December. And so I think that like being in the summer and being able to be outside and get more active and, have a toddler to keep me busy, it helped a lot. And
That's
so,
good.
yeah, I just was like, well, I'll just keep on going to the same place because, well, I thought about doing like a birth cottage because there's birth cottages in the area.
Okay, let's talk about that. What is a birth cottage versus I know hospital, birth center, home birth. So I've just not heard the term birth cottage. What's that?
It's kind of like the same thing as like a freestanding birth center,
Okay.
but I think it's like a New England term maybe because like they're very cottagey over there, like they like to have their cottage houses and stuff. So I think they just call it a birth cottage, but it's like it's the same as a freestanding birth
Birth
center.
center. Okay. Well,
Like,
that's cute. I like that term better. Let's call them birth cottages.
yeah.
Reminds me of like an old English like fairy tale.
Uh-huh.
Like, let's go have a baby in a cottage.
Yep. So like that was an option. Of course it wouldn't have been covered by the insurance that we had.
Yeah.
And like having already done an unmedicated birth other than the one shot of morphine that I had gotten,
Yeah.
however
To
long,
sleep.
like
Yeah.
hours, long time before he was born. I already knew like I didn't want like all of that stuff that the hospital had to offer, but I did appreciate the postpartum care, which I know a lot of people say that they don't love it in the hospital because they come in all the time. They didn't
Mhm.
at this hospital. They didn't come in and
Wow.
pester you.
That's
They actually
amazing.
did encourage you to rest. They had amazing lactation consultants. Their food was really good. It's
Okay.
weird. This
What
is a
is the name of this hospital for anyone listening in New Hampshire?
so Cheshire Medical Center in Keene.
Okay. There you go. So if you live near there,
Do not go to Peterborough. Peterborough is horrible. So
okay.
I've heard.
Good to
But
know.
yeah, the Keene Hospital, I loved it. I don't know how it is anymore, because, things change, but um, I was like, I don't really have any reason to not go other than the whole COVID thing. I was like, well,
Mm.
maybe they're going to, whatever. But I was like, surely I was not due till December of 2021. I was like, things will be normal by then.
How delirious we all were thinking things would be normal 2 years later. Yeah.
I know. So, I mean, it was mostly normal for my clinic appointments. They did like have me wear a mask going into the hospital because like that's where the midwife offices was in the hospital building.
Yeah.
Um, so like going in, you had to wear a mask and get your temperature checked and whatever. But then like once you got into the room, like the exam room, most of them were fine with you taking your mask off. And so like it didn't bother me too much. I was totally anti-mask, like going to the grocery store and all of that. But I was like to get into the hospital, like I'm like, whatever, I'll put up with it, And they weren't gonna make me wear it like in labor or anything like that.
Okay, that's good because they made women here wear it in labor. So
Which is absolutely criminal.
it is. I know. Trust me.
Oh my God. I can't.
The home birth rate spiked during COVID.
Oh, I'm sure. I think it did everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think they allowed my husband to come to all my appointments. He didn't really come to very many of them. I think he just maybe came to the 20-week ultrasound, but he would have been allowed to come to any of the appointments with me.
That's good.
They weren't limiting people to come to appointments, I don't think. In labor, they were like, we do test for COVID, but it wasn't like they were going to take my baby away or anything. It was more so like that way we know if we need to wear like PPE or whatever, like if they need to wear their extra garb or whatever. But like they always like kept the baby in the room with you unless they were doing like the hearing screen or whatever like that. If they like testing stuff like that, sometimes they would take them out. But then like a parent was always like
With them.
welcome to come. Yeah. So they weren't like alone. So I mean, I was like, I'm fine with that. Like I'm sure by the end of my pregnancy, they probably won't even have any of that stuff anyways, which they still did, but I digress. So yeah, I would say much nicer pregnancy that time around. And then, so yeah, I went to labor 38 and 3, the first one. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll go into labor around the same this time, So I think I asked the midwife to check me at my 38-week appointment. She's like, this means like nothing, right? I was like, I know, I'm just kind of curious, to compare to my last one. And she's like, I mean, if you really want me to. And I was like, yeah, I do. And so she did. And she's like, you're like 1 centimeter. And I left and I called my best friend and cried. I was like, I'm going to be pregnant forever. But yeah, so I ended up making it to 39 and 5 that pregnancy.
Nice.
So completely different labor experience this time around. They did still have the volunteer doulas at the hospital. However, the one that I had used with my last birth was no longer volunteering there. So I got some other one, which we weren't really on the same page at all. And honestly, I mean, I met with her like one time before the birth. And then I think I had texted her when I was in labor. She didn't realize like how far along I was. So she didn't show up till, I don't know, maybe an hour before the baby was born. She really didn't do much of anything at all because she wasn't there. And also she was kind of we didn't really mesh very well.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that she was there, but she also didn't really like do anything that helped me in any great way. So yeah, I think it was the same thing a Saturday morning. I woke up, started the day off normal and had breakfast, whatever. I think pretty sure my husband and I were intimate that morning.
That'll do it
And
sometimes.
yeah, it was not very long after that. I think it was maybe an hour or something after that. I was like, something. I think I felt something, And then like 20 minutes or 30 minutes later, I'm like, okay, I felt something again. Like, okay. And we were supposed to be going to his work's Christmas dinner that night. And so he's like, so, hey, did you get a babysitter for tonight for the Christmas dinner? And I'm like, about that. I don't really think we're going to make it to that. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I think this baby's coming today. He's like, seriously? Because the year before they had to cancel their Christmas dinner because of COVID. So we were both actually really looking forward to this Christmas dinner. And I was like, yeah, I don't think we're going to make it. And he's like, okay. I was like, I mean, I have some time, I think. So he had some errands and stuff he had to do. So I was like, go and do, whatever stuff. And I'll just keep you posted because, they're still, far apart at this point, but like they were very distinctive.
Like you knew that like they were contractions and labor was starting.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, it's definitely a contraction. Like I can feel it. And they like started out as very normal. It was like, oh, like a good 30-second contraction. And then it would, they got longer and they got closer together.
Yeah.
And so they started like the 20 or 30 minute. And then they kind of just were getting, to 10 minutes or 12 minutes and then 10 minutes. And then, and so after I don't know, 2 or 3 hours, I was like, okay, these are getting pretty normal here. I should probably call in. So I call the hospital and I get like the main switchboard or whatever because it's the weekend. And I'm like, oh, I'm calling for labor and delivery. And they're like, I think they're closed on the weekends. And I was like, I'm pretty sure they're open. Babies are still born on the weekends.
Poor guy.
Yeah, so funny. So anyways, he gets me through and they're like, oh, so midwife Elena is on call. I will get her on the phone and she'll call you and check in on you, see how you're doing. And I was so excited because that was the midwife that was on staff for my previous birth. And it's just whoever is, on call. It's kind of like the same as the doctors where it's whoever's on call,
Yeah.
but a lot of them are really fantastic. And so I was pretty much happy to be with most any of the midwives that were there. So, but being as it was the same one that I had for my last birth, I was really excited about that. And so she calls me and she's like, listens to me cope through a contraction or whatever. And she's like, it sounds like you're doing really good. I would just stop timing your contractions. And when they hit the next intensity, then, that would be a good time to come in. Cause I know you're, 35 minutes away and it's not a super comfortable ride. The roads are pretty bumpy and whatever. So she's like, you're welcome to come in at any time. But I would say when you hit the next intensity would be a really good time to come in. And so, yeah, just don't you don't need to track them, whatever, you'll know. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So I get off the phone and it was almost like right after I got off the phone with her, I felt the intensity change. And I was like, okay, like we are in active labor. So we actually lived in an apartment above my in-laws' house at the time. And so I went downstairs to my in-laws and I told my mother-in-law, I was like, I need you to watch Jameson. We are having a baby today. And she's like, no, there's no way. Like, you're not in labor, really? Like, she didn't believe me because I guess I was just coping fine.
Because you look so calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's just like, are you sure? I mean, they'll probably just send you home, but whatever. And I was like, okay, yeah, well, I'm having a baby today. And so I called my husband. I was like, okay, like you need to get home. We got to go. And he gets home and then like another one comes and I'm like, okay, we really have to leave. I was like, go get Jameson's car seat out of the car. So your mom and dad have it. We're leaving now. I had already like packed up my stuff like in the morning, like got the rest of things added to my bag and whatever. I was like, I'm ready to go. We're leaving. We're going now. And the drive to the hospital, I just remember being like so uncomfortable. I was like on my knees, bent over the passenger seat in the car. And I was like, this is awful because like the roads are so bumpy there. So we get there and we go through the screening, whatever. We go up to labor and delivery. They don't have triage at this hospital too, which is another just amazing thing that I love about this
hospital. You just
hospital.
Get to go straight to your room.
They go straight to a labor suite and they put you on the bed and they'll do an NST and check you or, do an assessment. And then if you go home, they just change the sheets, whatever. You don't have to go through this extra separate room.
That's nice because most hospitals you do.
I know that's what I found out with my third. And so, yeah, she checks me and she's like, you're like a 5 or 6. I was like, no way. I was like, I'm already that far. I'm like, this is amazing. They're like, do you want us to call the on-call doula or do you have a doula coming? They have labor tubs in all of their suites too. Oh, I'm telling you, this place gets more amazing.
That's a great hospital. Oh, you can labor in them.
Yeah, you can labor in them. Although, like, if you tried to give birth in them, I don't know that anyone would be pulling you out.
Well, I've seen it happen here at our hospitals where nurses will literally pick the women up out of the tub. No. Yes, it's wild.
I don't know if they would here or not. I guess it probably just depends on whoever's on staff at the time. But so yeah, she's so sweet. They filled up the tub. They have their, candles going. They turned down the lights because they, had read my birth preferences. They knew that's what I wanted. And so it's like really nice and dim and just cozy in there. And I'm in the tub and she comes and sits down by the tub. The midwife does. And she's like, so how was your last recovery and whatever? And I told her about the glandular tissue and stuff. And she felt terrible about it. She felt so awful. And she's like, I'm so sorry that happened. Like I think she kind of felt that fault for it, even though like I was the one that ultimately made the decision, I made an uneducated decision, but I did make the decision. So she felt really bad about it. But so I was in the tub for however many hours, or I don't even know how long it would have been. And she's like, well, maybe you should move to the toilet. You progressed really well last time. So I did, hit transition, went back to the bed, kind of same, which my water had broke on the toilet partially. It's like one like the 4 bag or something, mm-hmm. One of them had broken the toilet, but it hadn't completely broken. And so then I'm on my side on the bed again, trying to push. And I'm like, this baby is not coming. I'm so exhausted. Granted, it had only been such a short labor. I don't know how I felt so exhausted. I found out after. But, yeah. Well, I found out after that my blood sugar drops. during transition. And so I go limp.
Oh,
And so I experienced the same with my first and my second. And by my third one, I had found out about this. And so I was able to drink juice
it was
when
like
I,
had sugar ready to go. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it made the world of difference. But yeah, at this one, I hadn't known about that yet. And so yeah, I was like, I don't think I can handle this pain anymore. Like, cause she's like, well, do you want me to finish breaking your water? Cause there's still some water here. You still have a bag of waters. And that's what's, like he's not coming out because of that. And, I was like, well, I don't know if I can handle any more pain. She's like, at this point, it's not going to get any more painful. It's just like,
Your baby's
that's
going to
what's
come. Were you fully
yeah,
dilated at
yeah,
that point? Yeah.
yeah, I was fully dilated, ready to go. And for some reason, when I hit transition with my first and my second baby, I didn't really get a break between contractions. It just was like constant
One
pain
continuous
until
long
baby.
contraction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she broke my water and he was born. He had a double nuchal cord, which she released and was no big issue. And he came out. He was his face was a little bit bruised.
That's normal.
But yeah,
Yeah.
like he was totally fine. And I was like, this was amazing. Because I mean, from start to finish, the whole thing was like 8 hours long. I was like, this was the dream,
From like the morning contraction that was like you had
Yeah.
2 in an hour to like when he was born. So what time was he born?
I don't know. It was in
rough
the
estimate.
like 4 in the afternoon, maybe. I
Nice.
don't even remember. So yeah, like he came out and I was like, well, that was easy compared to the first time around,
Yeah,
I
it
should have
goes
like
much
wrote down
faster second time around.
after 3 births and I just like it all kind of blurs together.
How much did your second baby weigh?
So he was 8 pounds, 1 ounce.
Okay, so a little bit smaller, even though he's like a week later.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think he was 21 inches as well. We didn't know what we were having with our second one, so we were surprised.
Oh.
And that was fun. And yeah, and that was our axle.
And did you tear this time?
I had just a teeny tiny tear and it was right near where the other one was. And so she's like, I really want to just throw one stitch in there real quick. She's like, I would hate for you to have the recovery you had last time.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, do it. And so, yeah, the postpartum was amazing. So much better than my first one. He was just a great nurser. He slept like, I think 3-hour stretches.
Wow.
Sometimes 4. So that was like, I felt like a new person. I was like, this is amazing. Sleep 3 hours at a time. This is great. And so like life was the dream, like for the first, how many weeks, like 6 or 8 weeks, I was just living the newborn bliss. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And then after that, around 8 weeks, he actually got bronchiolitis, which is like RSV similar.
Mm-hmm. Like an upper respiratory thing. Yeah.
So he had bronchiolitis, pneumonia, and COVID all at once at 8 weeks old.
Ooh.
So
what does that look like on an 8-week-old? Like what were all of his symptoms? What was that like?
So at first he, like he, had some of the congestion and whatever. And then, he was like retracting some, but I was like, well, he seems like he's fine, and then I brought him and his brother both to get looked at by the pediatrician because they were just like, I don't know, not looking the greatest. But the pediatrician was like, oh, they're fine. Just keep, riding it out. And it was I think it was around 24 hours after that, we had to call an ambulance to our house because like I had him sleeping just kind of in the nook of my chair. And I was letting him sleep because I was like, well, if he's not feeling well, sleep is really good for him. Not thinking about like, oh, he's not getting enough to eat. He could get dehydrated. But at that point, he had started like kind of making weird noises when he was breathing. And I was like, this doesn't sound right. And so I like immediately brought him to my mother-in-law and I was like, is he okay? Like, because this doesn't like his breathing sounds weird. And so she started looking at him. And my husband had asthma. Well, actually, I think 3 of her kids had asthma as babies. And so she's very familiar with retracting and all of that. And she's like, yeah, he doesn't look very good. And so we put an Apple Watch on him to try to check his O2. And according to the Apple Watch, it was like in somewhere in the 80s. And so um, my sister actually works in EMS. And so she was like, call an ambulance and have them do a check on him. And if you feel like he's okay, just decline transport and bring him in yourself. But it's better to have someone there right away. And so we called 911 and they came. And by the time they got there, he was like satting down into like the low 80s. And then they were like putting oxygen on him and they would get him up to like, like low 90s. And then if they took the oxygen off, he would sat right back down. And so we took the ambulance to our local hospital where he was born, but it being a smaller hospital, they didn't have like the care that he needed. And so we ended up doing a critical care transport to the hospital that was a couple hours away. And he was in the ICU for 10 days.
The
So
ICU.
yeah, he was like very critical.
Was it for his like oxygen? Like he couldn't breathe well on his own then?
Yeah. So he couldn't breathe. Thankfully, we were able to keep him off of the ventilator, but he did have to be on CPAP for quite a while.
Yeah.
So, and it just was one of those things where it's like he looked like maybe he was getting a little better, but not like not. And then I think we were there for a total of 13 days, but I think he was ICU status, like the highest level of ICU status for 10 days.
Wow.
So like he was extremely sick. But as hard as that experience was, especially being such a young mom, the Lord taught us a lot through that experience. And he used that to let us witness to a lot of people. So I'm like, you know what? Like I look back and I'm like, thank you, Lord, for putting us through that because it was like the most traumatic thing I've ever experienced. But looking back now, I'm like, that's like what he used to wake us up in our faith journey. And so I'm like really thankful looking back to like go through what we did because it just causes total dependence, like you just, everything's out of your hands at that point.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, it was still during COVID. And since he was COVID positive, which we couldn't reject the COVID test because they had added it to the panel. So they're like, if we don't, like, we cannot test him for anything, but then we won't know what he has. So like if we do a respiratory panel, it has the COVID on it. You can't get, the RSV test and not the COVID test anymore. Yeah. We were trying to avoid, getting a COVID test done on him, but it just, the way that they did it at that point, we couldn't. So yeah, we were stuck in a room. Thankfully, since he was in the pediatric ICU and not the NICU, we were able to stay in the room with him and we had a bathroom and a shower in there. And we were allowed to go outside, but we weren't supposed to like walk around the hospital at all. So my husband and I would take turns going outside and we walk around and get a little bit of fresh air. And my mother-in-law would bring us, clothes and whatever and take away our dirty stuff. And yeah, he was there, stayed with him. I mean, what else do you do? Like,
were you able to like hold him and nurse him or like what did that look like for your breastfeeding journey?
So he was not able to nurse because of the CPAP was so strong. Mm-hmm. They said it would have been like the equivalent of like putting your head out the window while you're going down the freeway and drinking a like smoothie, like a thick smoothie at the same time, like the air going into his nose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I had to wake up every 3 hours and pump for him. And then they gave him through NG. Oh, and another thing I should mention is when they placed the NG, they did an x-ray of his abdomen to make sure that it was placed properly. And they saw like an abnormality with like his intestines or something. And they wondered if he had something called malrotation. And so they came and did all this other testing on him because like, they're like, although he's not here for this, like if he does have this condition, like it's a condition that you can like have without knowing until it's too late type of thing. And so now we need to follow up on it. And I was just devastated, obviously, because I'm like, my baby's already like so critical at this point, like something more. And then they're like, if he does have it, he'll need surgery and all this and that. And I was like praying and we just sent out a prayer chain to everyone, like everyone pray, like, I was like, please, Lord, just let it be a fluke, which is not a word that I use very often. It was very just, I don't know, just what I prayed that day. And that evening, the doctor came in and, we were waiting on pins and needles all day, but we're like, well, they're not rushing in here. So hopefully everything's okay.
Yeah.
And so they come in to do the evening rounds and they're like, well, I mean, we did a thorough ultrasound and we did this and we had the pediatric surgeon look at his imaging and it must have just been a fluke. Must have been like, how the thing was positioned or, the x-ray was positioned or something. I must have just been a fluke. And I was like, I'm sorry, you said what?
Same word you prayed.
Same word I prayed. And I was like, wow, Lord, like you are so faithful. Like, and just gave us like so much confirmation that like, yes, he is here with us and um, he is watching over him.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the one visitor we were allowed to have was our pastor. He drove like 2 hours each way. It had
Wow.
happened to be communion Sunday at our church that Sunday. And so he brought us communion and they allowed him in since he was a minister. And it was like an angel walked through that room or the door when he walked in and came and visited us and prayed over him. And it just was so uplifting, to have a fellow believer come in. Cause like everyone that came in the room, the only way we could tell the difference between anyone was their shoes because they all had so much PPE on. They all
Oh,
had their
yeah.
hats and you could see their eyes and that was pretty much it. So to keep track of who people were, we would look at their shoes. And so to like have an actual person come into our room and someone that we knew was just like the best thing, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was like after he left that night, our baby started to like, we turned the corner. It was crazy. Like he was like in a deep sleep whenever our pastor had come in, we prayed over him and everything. And yeah, it was that night where I started to see him start to turn the corner and come out of it. And I was like, I know he's getting better now. I could like see the difference. So yeah, the next morning they were able to start weaning him off of the CPAP and stuff. So yeah,
That's
that was an
amazing.
experience.
Yeah, I
So,
believe it. That sounds a lot harder than just, regular postpartum
yeah.
difficulties.
So like, I mean, up until then I had been doing really well mentally and everything postpartum, but obviously like that was a really traumatic event and it like triggered a lot of like PTSD type of symptoms. Like when you see in movies where people have like flashbacks and the screen like flashes and like whatever, and you see them like think back to these traumatic experiences in their life. And like that's what it would be like every time I went in the shower or anytime I, like close my eyes or whatever, like I would have those scary flashbacks of him, like in the ambulance or before he left the house or like, in the emergency room and all of these different things. And so I did find a Christian therapist, or my sister actually did for me. And she encouraged me to go. And I went through therapy for, I think a couple months. I was going once a week just to process through what had happened, which did help a lot. And I think there's a time and a place for therapy, and there's also a time and a place for just being in prayer and healing, like spiritual healing. But
Yeah.
um, definitely having both was a big help to just know like why my body responded the way it did and all of that to understand like the science of how our brains work and all of that. And so that helped a lot. And, I my husband and I both had, quite a bit of um trauma from that. And like anytime our kids would get sick, it would make us really nervous and stuff after that. But, it is what it is. And that's parenting. So
That is parenting. So after he recovered, then was the rest of like your newborn time like kind of back to normal and decent and like you healed up fine with your tear and all of that?
yeah, all of my like physical healing was fine. I did feel like I had a harder time bonding with him after that. Like I feel like that kind of like
From like
interfered
all the
with the original.
separation. Yeah.
Yeah, because like even like when I could have held him at the hospital and stuff, I didn't hold him as much as I probably could have because of all the wires and stuff. It was really difficult. We kind of had to have a nurse come in to come help us like hold him and everything else. And then just seeing how sick he was, it was so hard to even look at him, to be honest. Like part of the time I was like, I can't even look at him because I'm so heartbroken over how sick he looks,
Yeah.
you know? And then I held so much guilt. I harbored so much guilt towards myself towards that afterwards. He just needed me there and I wasn't there for him because it was so hard for me to see him that way.
Mm.
But my husband was like, by his crib a lot more than I was, probably just standing next to him and looking at him and everything. But I, like we have to have grace with ourselves as parents, I think. And I look back and I'm like, given the same circumstances now, like I probably would have approached it differently. Like I probably would have been like, just give him to me, let me hold him the whole entire time.
Yeah.
But the place that I was at that point, I was just like, I'm so scared right now. Like, it's scary to look at you
Yeah.
because of how sick you are. So, I did harbor a lot of guilt towards myself for a long time about that. And so I would say like, it did take, I don't know, probably close to a year after that before I was like, felt like I was like fully recovered mentally from the experience.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you were able to work through all that. You actually ended up moving where? Back to Texas?
Yeah, whenever he was about 5 months old. So we moved when he was 5 months, and then we did RV living for, I think, was it 2.5 years?
Oh, fun.
Yeah, that it was an adventure.
So was the move because of like your husband's job?
Yeah, we just like felt like the expenses there were so high. Like the cost of living, like getting any house and stuff is really expensive there. We just didn't feel like we were gonna get anywhere. And we felt like the opportunities here were better. And so we were just like, we're just gonna take a leap of faith and move there. And there was also like we know, lots of his family that lives here too. So he has family here and family in New Hampshire.
And do you have family in Texas?
I just have one brother here, and like some like cousins and like extended family, but he has quite a bit of his uncles and aunts here and great uncles and aunts. And so like we knew people here. So it wasn't like we were just moving out into the middle of nowhere. But
Oh, that's
so
good.
I think he was about 5 months old whenever he first moved here. And then he would have been like 18 or 20 months old when we started trying for our third then. And then, yeah, we ended up getting pregnant for her our first try. So every one of our babies, praise the Lord, has been like we got pregnant the first try for. So we're very blessed.
Yes, that is such
Um,
a blessing.
it's not the case for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And we don't take it for granted for sure.
So now being in a new place, not with your
Mm-hmm.
sweet, tiny little hospital that was so great anymore,
Yeah.
how did you like seek out care now that you were in a different location?
Yeah. So, I mean, as the years have gone on, I've obviously gotten, shall we say, crunchier and crunchier. And at this point, I had, like consumed a lot of information surrounding pregnancy and birth. And I really wanted to do a home birth. But the same month we got pregnant for our baby is the same month that my husband switched his job. So he was working in construction, and he switched his job and started an entry level job to become a diesel technician. And so, like, switching jobs obviously comes with a pay cut. And so we did not have the finances to support a home birth in any way, shape, or form. Um, we were living in our trailer, and he was door dashing to pay our bills to like make up the difference.
Yeah.
So it just like there's some circumstances where you can just scrimp and save every penny. This circumstance just wasn't there,
Yeah.
which I believe was totally a God thing because like he laid it on our hearts. Like we felt like a strong pressing from the Lord each time that we've conceived. Like before we've conceived, we've been like, oh, like we both feel like God's putting on our heart. We pray about it and have tried to get pregnant and got pregnant. And so we're like, the Lord's obviously working in this. And so we applied for state insurance. And so I got approved, and I called around and I was like, surely there's got to be some midwives in hospital around here. And there really isn't much of anything. And I mean, we live between San Antonio and Austin. And so like we can go to Austin, we can go to San Antonio or any of the, surrounding areas. And there's a lot of hospitals, but it's not the same here. So I called around like crazy. And at this point, I had been paying out of pocket to, for someone to manage my thyroid. However, whenever I told her I was pregnant, she was like, I actually don't have insurance to treat pregnant patients. And so I can't prescribe medication to you anymore. Now that you're pregnant. And I was like, well, shoot, now I have to find a midwife or an OB like quick because I have to have someone manage my thyroid, because if it's not being taken care of, I'm at risk for miscarriage. And so I called around. I ended up finding one hospital in downtown San Antonio. It's an hour and 15 minutes away, but it had two midwives. And I was like, okay, if that's what I have to do to get midwifery care, I would rather do that than to end up with an OB. And so I went in at 8 weeks, which is like a little bit earlier than typical, but because of my thyroid thing and I needed someone to take care of my thyroid, I wanted to get in and, get that taken care of. And so for their intake appointment, they do an 8-week ultrasound to like confirm pregnancy, which I'd never had. I'd only ever had the 20-week with my previous pregnancies. And I thought about declining it. And I like knowing that, we can decline anything. Like we have the final say over that. And I made a decision out of fear and did it because I know a lot of people that have had miscarriages. And I was like, well, it would be kind of nice to see the heartbeat, And so I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. And they found an abnormality. And then they wanted to do a vaginal ultrasound. I was like, well, why do you want to do that? Like, I've never had that done. Why do you need to do that? Like, I'm not just going to have you go do a vaginal ultrasound on me and not even tell me why. Like, you're acting weird. And so she's like, well, it almost looks like there's a second sac there, but we can't tell for sure. And I was like, okay, by all means, then, like, if there's a twin in there, then, like,
I'd like to know.
So she did it. Yeah. So she did it, but they still couldn't confirm whether there was a twin there or not because they couldn't. The first sac, they could definitely tell had a heartbeat. The second sac, they couldn't tell if it was attached or if it was separate, but they didn't see a heartbeat. And so they weren't really sure if it was a twin or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're just like, well, I wish that we could say that everything is normal, but we can't. Come back in 3 weeks. And so then I'm like at unease for the next 3 weeks, wondering like, is everything okay? What is going on?
Yeah.
So then 3 weeks later, I go back and they do another ultrasound and they tell me that my baby has gastroschisis, which is when the abdomen doesn't close all the way and organs grow on the outside of the body, like on the outside of the abdomen, which it can be one intestine or two, or, it can be more than that. It can, like, for females, it can be like their ovaries or, whatever. It can grow on the outside of their abdomen. And then after birth, they have to be, have to have surgery and have it like put back in and whatever. And so I was devastated, obviously, especially like going through the whole thing with Axel. I was like, I can't even imagine having another baby, like in the ICU again. Like I just completely crumbled. And I had gone to that appointment by myself because my husband had stayed home with the kids. And so, yeah, I mean, I just didn't even know what to do at that point. But they're like, we're going to have you come back in 3 more weeks and do another ultrasound. And they had said something about like I was technically like 2 or 3 days early for that. Like, so within those 3 days, the abdomen could technically close because it has to close by like 12 weeks. And I was like 11 weeks and 4 days or something like that. So to get like an actual official diagnosis, I was 3 days early, but they were pretty sure that that's what she had. And so, but either way, they wanted me to come back. They scheduled an appointment for me with the MFM in 3 weeks. And we went away and prayed about it and prayed about it and prayed some more about it and sobbed about it. And we didn't tell like our family that we were pregnant and stuff at that point in time. Cause I was just like, I don't want to like say anything to anyone about it until it's like, we know like 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt. And we're just going to pray that it's not, we're going to pray that everything is okay.
Yeah.
And so we went back to that ultrasound. My husband came with me for that one. And you know how at the hospital, like they don't tell you like when they're doing an ultrasound, like what they see or anything, like they have to wait for the doctor, whoever, to come in. And so I'm like looking at the picture.
But while you were looking at it, what did you notice?
I was like, everything looks normal. Because we could see on the previous ultrasound, the photo that they gave to us, we could see a bulge in the abdomen. It was very visual. Like it's not like it wasn't there. But I was like, everything looks normal, but they're not saying anything. But the doctor comes in, the maternal field doctor comes in, and she's really sweet. She's like, well, I mean, I have good news for you. It looks like everything is normal. Everything looks great. And we were just like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Like, so thankful. Everything looks fine. And then she says, but because of your thyroid, we'll want you to come back monthly for ultrasounds. And then she's looking at my chart and she's like, how big were your babies? And I'm like, oh, 8'12" and 8'1". Those are really, robust babies for someone of your size. I was like, yeah, they came out just fine. They're totally fine. And she's like, yeah, we'll want to see you back every month for growth ultrasounds to make sure that the baby's growing fine. I was like, you just got done saying that my babies were great sizes, like that they were actually on the large end of normal. And I was like, I don't think that's necessary. Like, I only had a 20-week ultrasound in my last 2 pregnancies, and I've already had more ultrasounds than I should have this pregnancy. And so, I'll talk to my midwife about that. And, if at some point I'm measuring way off on my fundal height, then, we'll make a decision at that time. But I don't feel any need to come back for monthly ultrasounds. And she's like, okay, well, if your midwife is comfortable with that. And so I left.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, I was just like, you're literally contradicting yourself. Like,
because she was
to me.
worried from your thyroid that your baby was going to be too small.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which clearly they weren't. So, yeah.
Yeah. Because she just got done saying that they were large for my size, which, they're just average, I think. Like, I don't think my babies were necessarily large. They're just, that's a normal size. 8-pound range is normal. After that, I did do the anatomy scan, the 20-week anatomy scan. But then after that, didn't do any other ultrasounds. So I did have 4 total that pregnancy, which made me hate ultrasounds. But yeah, I just so the 2 midwives there was one that was a midwife and one was more of a midwife. And the midwife one, she was really sweet. Like, she seemed to really care about me. She took more time during the appointments, and like, she cared about my well-being, and she, respected my choices that I made as a parent. And the other one just kind of was like, walk in, walk out type of thing. And she was like, oh, you're doing great. I was like, how do you know I'm doing great? You've seen me twice. You've spent like 3 minutes with me. You have no idea that I had a meltdown the last appointment with the other midwife because I was suffering mentally. And you're saying that I'm doing great. Like, you don't really know how I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I scheduled as many appointments with Sarah, her name was. I scheduled as many with her as I could because I felt like she was much more in line with what I wanted for my birth. And I had hired a doula because at that one point we thought that I was, my baby was going to be in the NICU. And so I was like, well, I need someone with me. And then so my husband can go to the NICU. And so I had hired a doula. And so, yeah, we had her to be with during the birth. And so I did feel like really stressed out for a lot of my pregnancy. I just felt like they were looking for things to be wrong, honestly.
Yeah.
And I just don't like that feeling. Like, it's just like, it should be the other way around, where it's like, no, you're healthy until proven otherwise. But it's like, oh, there's something wrong until you prove that everything is okay type of thing. And it wasn't Sarah that necessarily made me feel that way. It was just the office and the environment in which she worked in. Because had she been, at a birth center or a home birth midwife, I think she would have been really great. But being in that environment, you're held to certain things.
Yeah. Policies and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So even like about the GBS, I had, consulted her about the GBS, and I said, listen, like, I didn't have GBS in my previous 2 pregnancies, but should I test positive this time? Like, I'd like to know what your opinions are. What are the statistics of group B strep? And, can you give me some more information on that? And she said, like, actually the amount of babies that are actually like negatively impacted by it, where it's not caught early and, it actually is a very poor outcome, is extremely low. And I think she even like pulled up the numbers for me. And I said, okay, so if we're giving antibiotics for this GBS, what are the statistics of the negative impact of the antibiotics? And she's like, well, there's no studies done on that. They don't study that. You have a very valid point, and I respect your decision. So she respected my decision and was happy to, have me not do the antibiotics, like if I didn't want them.
Yeah.
The only thing that she kind of like balked at me about was when I told her that I wanted to delay the cord clamping
Really? That was the
Until
thing?
the placenta comes out. Well, she was willing to do it, but not longer than 5 minutes.
Why?
She's like, it's weird. I mean, tinfoil hat girl, I think because more of the stem cells are coming out and they can't use, they don't have as many stem cells and what have you in the placenta to go do with it what they want to do with it.
Oh, were you letting them keep your placenta?
Yeah, I never even thought to take it home or do anything with it because I knew I couldn't afford to encapsulate it. And so
Uh-huh.
I never even thought to like take it home and freeze it or anything. Of course, we
Yeah.
lived in an RV too. I had a teeny tiny freezer, but I mean, I should have at least just disposed of it myself so they couldn't, sell it
Sell
off
it.
and stuff, like, do whatever they're gonna do with it.
Yeah.
But I'm that's the only thing I could come up with because, like, how does it affect them or, like, hurt them in any way to, delay the clamping more than 5 minutes?
So I'll say the only thing is because they have a checklist of things that they have to do before they can leave your room and before they can like be done with your birth. And they cannot proceed with their checklist until the placenta has been delivered and until like the cord has been cut essentially. So they're basically at that point having to sit on their hands and wait to do all that until you're ready. And so that's part of it for sure. Because I always tell my clients not to cut the cord until after the placenta has been delivered, because that way it's totally detached. Baby's gotten all of their blood. Like, there's no longer a source like pulsing through there and all the things. And at that point, it's obviously been delayed as long as it possibly can. Because we talk about this, the whole delay term is so subjective. Like some
Yeah,
providers think 30 seconds is delayed. Some think 60 seconds is delayed. 90 seconds is delayed. Or a couple minutes or whatever. And you're like, no, if you just like, instead of saying delayed, you just say, we're not cutting the cord till after the placenta has been delivered. And then there's like no question about it. There's no question about the time limit. It's just whenever that placenta comes out. Now, then you have to make sure they don't yank your placenta out. So that's another thing. But anyways,
exactly, which I put that on my, birth preference list too. But because I had, like, wrote a whole list of, like, things pretty much just, like, writing on paper to give to my midwife at my appointment, just so she has it in her records. Who knows if whoever's on staff is gonna read it, but at least then I know that they have a copy of it because I gave it to them,
yeah,
um, saying, like, "I don't want, my cord cut right away. We're declining vaccines, vitamin K, we're declining, the erythromycin. There's gonna be no management of the 3rd stage. There'll be no Pitocin. There's gonna be, no tugging on the cord, like, I wrote, like, all of that down.
yeah,
And just very plain, just like none of this, none of this, none of this, none of this, and whatever. And the only thing that she was like, "Oh, I don't really, am not comfy with," was that. And I was like, I don't know why you bother, but anyways, whatever. So, I mean, this whole entire pregnancy too, I'm just like begging and pleading and fighting the Lord on, why can't I just have a home birth? I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to this place. I don't want to be in this environment. Why couldn't I just have a home birth at this time? And I fought with him for a long time over it. And I would have been around 32 weeks. My husband actually had to leave town for 5.5 weeks for a work training trip. And so I was on
mm,
my own with my boys, um, heavily pregnant at this point until around 37.5 weeks. So I had that 5 week gap. And I think it was somewhere in that time where I finally made peace with God because I mean, I think it was my 32-week appointment actually that my midwife had told me because there's only 2 of them that they don't cover weekends. And so if I were to go in labor on the weekend, I would just end up with some random OB, that's whoever's there.
mm,
And that made me really upset. And I was like, you're telling me this 32 weeks in?
yeah,
And but I'm like, I understand in a certain sense because I mean, there's only 2 of them. How like that's not that you get stretched really thin being on call constantly.
yeah,
So I'm like, I understand it logistically, but like this is crazy.
yeah,
I was like, I don't want to have some male doctor taking care of me. I don't feel comfortable with that.
yeah,
And some random stranger, but especially a male that I don't know. And so I called around midwives and stuff in the area, like, is there any way that we can work something out financially? And I did find out that a lot of them were willing to work with you if you can cover their main, like their base costs. They'll finance the rest, but we didn't have enough money to even cover the base cost. And so it just wasn't an option. And so finally I was just like, you know what, Lord, I'm surrendering this to you. Like, I'm giving this up. Like, just help me not to take this back up, because I'm going to want to pick this up and be stressed
Yeah.
about it and whatever else. But I was like, there's nothing I can do about this. And I need to just trust that you know, have my best interests at heart. And so I prayed for a few very specific things, like that, you know, the right people would be there for the birth, that we would feel his presence there. And knowing I was GBS positive this time and declining antibiotics, I prayed that my water wouldn't break till right before the baby was born. And so I just was like, you know what? I'm done fighting. And so I just gave it up, and I just was able to just finally receive peace, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a very type A person, so it was really, like, difficult for me to be able to just, like, hand it over and just, like, not know what's gonna happen, you know? Like, we all wanna know the outcome,
Yeah.
right? But where's faith in that? And so I think the entire reason that God did not allow me to have a home birth for that birth is because he was teaching me to surrender to his will. I firmly believe that. Like, a home birth would have been beautiful, and I would have loved to do that. And that would have been my first choice. You know, if I could have, I would have birthed in my RV. I didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to learn to surrender my own will. So God's just been refining me, you know, and teaching
Yeah.
me that, you know, my will is best, and I will watch over you. I will be faithful to you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the last 4 weeks or 5 weeks, whatever it was of my pregnancy, I finally was just living in bliss. I
Oh.
wasn't depressed anymore. You know, had started going to a Webster certified chiropractor once a week. And so I was like thriving physically. I felt amazing. And I got to the point where I was just like, I could be pregnant for a few more weeks. I'm fine. I feel great. My husband made it home at 37.5 weeks. And I'm like, okay, he's home now. So
So we can have a baby
baby can
now.
come or baby can not come. Yeah. I'm like, this is fine. I was like, I am happy. Like, I feel great. And then I was like, I have no idea. Like, is this baby going to go over the date? Is it going to go early? I have no idea. I had no feelings one way or the other, really. I mean, I kind of like was like, I think maybe a little bit before the date, but I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
So I'm in my 39th week, and I had my 39-week appointment with my midwife that I liked, Sarah, and I knew she was going to be on call in the next couple of days. And I was like, Lord, it'd just be so nice if I could like either go into labor when she's going to be on call, or like wait till the following week when she'll be on call again. I would just really prefer her over the other midwife, but you know, whatever you will. And so we had like an Easter function at our church that night, and I went and volunteered and helped out at that. And my back was kind of achy and stuff that night, but I was like, well, it's probably just from being on my feet, you know, on the concrete floors of the church and whatever. And so I didn't really think much of it. Well, my mother-in-law was driving in from New Hampshire. She had pulled in, she was staying at an uncle and aunt's place or whatever, and she pulls in around midnight. 4 a.m., I wake up and I'm like, oh, something feels off. I just like, my back feels really crampy. So I got up and I was like losing my mucus plug, and I was kind of having contractions like every 20 minutes or whatever. And I was like, oh, well, maybe we're having a baby today. No, so I like, they were kind of getting closer together. So I woke up my husband. I was like, I think we're having a baby today. And he hops out of bed. He goes and starts the car. I'm like, what are you doing? I was like, we have no one here to watch the kids. We don't need to leave for the hospital yet. I'm just saying, like, I think we're probably going to have a baby today. So he goes back out, shuts the car off. And I was like, you can go back to bed. It's fine. Like, I'm just going to stay up and, you know, sit on my ball for a little while. I put nail stickers on and whatever. After a while, I was just like, you know what? Like, these are far enough apart. I'm just going to go back to bed because, like, I need to rest. I'm not really sure what's going on here. So I went back to bed, and he had texted his work saying, like, he didn't think he was going to come in that day. But I woke up and I was like, you know what? Just go to work. Like, because I'm going to be mad if you stay home, like, for nothing. And I'm like, I'm not really sure, like, that you know, this is just different than last time. And I'm not really sure what's going on. but things are pretty spaced out. So just go to work. And his job was only like 15 minutes away from the hospital that I was giving birth at. And so I was like, if you have to, you can just meet me at the hospital. I'll have your mom drive me to the hospital since she's here now. It's not a big deal. And so he went to work, and so his mom comes over, and I didn't say anything to her. And we just went out and did normal things. We went shopping. We went out to lunch. Went over and visited her aunt that lives here. And I was at their house, and it was like clearing out time. It was like that early labor clearing out, which had happened in my second birth as well.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, like I definitely think that there's a baby coming. I just don't know how long it's going to be.
Yeah.
So I still didn't say anything to his mom, but I was just running to the bathroom like every other contraction. But I was able to cope through the contractions. That I was like, sitting on the couch listening to them visit, and I was just like, whatever. But then they started to get a little bit more intense, and it's like, I don't know, like it's got to be like 4 p.m. at this point. So like early labor has been going on for like 12 hours now. And so I'm like, you know what? We should really run to the grocery store, get there and get whatever we need and whatever. So we left and we go to the grocery store. And I go in and I was like, I have to go to the bathroom again. So she has my kids, her 2 daughters, and she's walking around the store. And I go to the bathroom and I come back out and I was like, okay, like it's like 4:30, 5 o'clock at this point. There's rush hour traffic going to be happening. I better just like start heading because the hospital's like an hour away. And if there's traffic, this could turn bad.
So how far apart were your contractions at this point when you're at the grocery store?
I think they were like 3 to 5 minutes, 5 minutes
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah. So you're like you've started active labor. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I had felt that shift where I was like, okay, like this is taking a little bit more of my focus and stuff. So I went and found her and I was like, where is Chanel? Who's my sister-in-law. She's like old enough, has her license and stuff. And I was like, who is she with? And do they have a car? Because my mother-in-law happened to be riding with me in my car and my kids' car seats and everything. So I couldn't take my car and I couldn't drive myself. Or, I mean, I'm sure I probably could have, but it wouldn't have been very smart to.
No, that wouldn't have been a good idea.
That's why I asked her, I was like, where is Chanel? And so I call her and I'm like, Chanel, what are you doing? Where are you? Who are you with? Do you have a car? And she's like, oh, I'm with Alicia, which is mutual friend, cousin of ours. And so I was like, well, I'm just at the grocery store with Mom, but I need a ride to San Antonio. And I was wondering if you guys could come get me. And she's like, oh my goodness. Because she knew what I meant then. And she's like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, just try not to tell like whoever you're with, because I don't want like everyone knowing that I'm in labor. And so they make up some excuse to leave wherever they are, and they come and pick me up off the curb in front of the grocery store. And we ran and picked up my bag from our RV and headed to the hospital. And I'm like in the back at this point. I'm like pretty vocal through these contractions. And I was like, okay, as long as I can get there and my water doesn't break, we should be fine. But if my water breaks, then all bets are off.
Yeah.
So
did you call your husband and say meet us there?
Yeah. So I had called him and I was like, hey, just if you could just like leave work and meet me at the hospital, it'd be great. And he only had to leave his work like 15 minutes early or something. Like he was almost at the end of his shift anyway, so it ended up working out. So he just he was at the hospital there whenever we got there. And so we made it there fine. But yeah, they were a bit stressed out driving. They had never like experienced, because they're, a few years younger than me.
Yeah.
And they were both single. And so they hadn't really experienced this before. They were happy to, drive or whatever, but they're like, oh no, like just praying that we made it there in time, Well, so we get there and I call up to L&D and I'm like, hey, like I'm here. I'm just wondering if Sarah's there. Like I know she's on call today. Like, oh, she's actually went home for the day. Because her clinic hours were over. And so she went home. I said, okay, can you just give her a call and let her know that I'm here and I'm in labor? And they're like, oh, so they asked me like, oh, what number baby is this and this and that and whatever. I was like, oh, it's number 3. Like I'm definitely in labor. And they're like, okay, well, just come up and we'll assess you and whatever. They didn't call her. So I go up there and they assess me and, put me in the triage room, which was absolutely stupid. And my doula, I had called her and told her to come, which she didn't believe me that I was in labor either. She's like, there's no way you're walking around a grocery store like if you're like in active labor. So she was like skeptical, but she's like, I better listen and just come anyways. So she did. She met me there. And they put me in triage and they're like, oh, I'm not really sure what's going on here. Like, um, they just thought I looked fine, I guess. I don't know. It was shift change and they're changing shifts. And they're like, oh, we'll just have you pee in this cup and put on this gown and get on this bed and da 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 da. And I'm like, I'll just empty my bladder in the toilet. Thank you. I don't think you need my pee for anything. And so I think that kind of set a precedent with them because they were like, oh, she doesn't
She's
want to
not
give us
willing
her
to
urine.
comply. Yeah. Oh, she doesn't want to be
Exactly.
tested for anything. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mhm. And so the nurse that was on staff when I first got there to triage was just, I don't know, she just kind of was like, I don't know, we butted heads. She's like, oh, we just have to check you. And I was like, oh, do we have to? Like, just jokingly. And she's like, well, you're the one that came to me. So, and I'm like, what a weird response, like she just was kind of rude.
Yeah.
And made me feel very uncomfortable. And so then I asked him again, okay, did you guys call Sarah yet? Like, have you let her know that I'm here? Like, this is my third baby. Like, I know I'm in labor. Apparently I cope really well in labor because no one ever believes me that I'm in labor.
Oh,
But she's like, well, we'll call her, like, we have to check you first and whatever. That's our policy, whatever. Well, it ended up being shift change. She went out and never came back. Thank goodness, because I'm like, I'm sure she just was having a day, like whatever. But the nurse that came in to replace her, her name was Faith, which I just thought that was so cool.
mm.
And so then the OB comes around and he's like, oh yeah, well, we'll just check you to make, see how far along you are before we admit you and stuff. And I just told him I would not, where's Sarah that, I'm here for her. And that I wasn't comfortable having a male check my cervix. And he got kind of defensive about it. I was like, well, I've been doing this for 30 odd some years and whatever. I was like, I'm sure you're very good at your job. I'm just not comfortable with that. Can we have one of the nurses come in and check? And all this time I'm sitting in triage. It's like, I've been in here for like an hour now in triage. My labor is like stalled out at this point because I'm like so stressed.
Stressed from all the environment. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, are you calling my midwife or not? Why isn't she here? Like, there's rush hour traffic. She needs to be on her way here. And I'm texting my friend who's doing my birth photography, like that I'm at the hospital and whatever. She's on her way, wondering if she should come up and this and that. And my husband's out in the waiting room because they wouldn't let my doula and
Husband
my
both
husband
back
into the
there at the
triage
same
room.
time. Yep.
So he's in the waiting room, like freaking out. What's going on? What is taking so long? Because we've never had this whole triage thing before. And so finally, so then the nurse comes in and she checks my cervix. Because I was like, I was willing to comply with the check. I mean, I thought it was unnecessary, but I was like, if that's the only way that they're
Way
gonna,
that you'll call her.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so she checks it. She's like, okay, you're a 4. And I was like, really? I was like, that seems weird that after all this time I'm just a 4, but whatever, I was like, hey, well, are you guys gonna keep me or not? And she's like, yeah, we will. I mean, this is your 3rd baby. I was like, okay, well, that's great because I live like an hour away and I really don't want to
Drive home. Yeah.
I was like, I just want to get back in my room. So it's like 10 minutes after that, they moved me over to my labor and delivery room. So then obviously my husband comes in too. And I was about to text my photographer friend and be like, you can come up or you can hang out in your car, whatever's, comfortable for you. But I walk into my labor and delivery room and my water breaks on the floor. And I'm like, okay. Because I was like, it was just like a sigh because I was like, I just felt so uptight in that triage room. It just felt so sterile and just like, I didn't feel like I could take any of my coping stuff out or like get comfortable in any way. And they had the NST on me that entire time. And I was just like, just get me off of this. I don't even want to hear the monitors. They freak me out. And so like finally just walking into that room, I just felt like a sigh of relief. My body just obviously just relaxed and my water broke the first contraction that I walked through the door. And I was like, okay, well, I have to go pee really bad. So I'm going to go to the bathroom. My doula, lets the nurses know like, hey, her water just broke. Like her fluid's clear. It all looks great, whatever. She needs to go to the bathroom. So we go in the bathroom and I go pee and I get up off the toilet and I'm standing against the sink there. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? These are so painful already. And she said, I'm only a 4, which I had told them. I said, like, once I hit a 5 or my water breaks, the crap hits the fan and like things happen quick for me. has been my experience. And I mean, I'm sure people tell them stuff like that all the time. So I got to have some grace for them. And, they're still changing over shift and stuff. But I was just like, whatever. I'm in the bathroom here. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I need to get on my hands and knees. So I get down on my hands and knees and I'm like, someone go get me. I'd bought a foam mat from like Harbor Freight, like one of the gardening ones to put under my knees because I wanted to labor on my hands and knees a lot. And my plan was to labor in the shower because they didn't have tubs here. My plan was to, labor on my hands and knees and have the warm water on my back in the shower. And so I was like, someone go grab that. So someone brought that in the room. And so I had that under my knees and they got me a birth ball. And so I'm like leaning over the birth ball and I'm just like, all of a sudden it gets primal. And at that point, like whenever my water broke, I texted my friend. I was like, never mind, water broke, come up room 8 or whatever I was in. And she walks in time to like hear things start to turn primal. And she's like, wow, okay, like this sounds encouraging. Like, so she pulls out her camera. She's, getting her stuff all set up. And one of the nurses comes in and she's like, well, do you want to move to the bed in case this like goes quickly? And I was like, no, I don't want to move anywhere. Don't just get me I want to be in the water. Well, there was no time to get in the shower. Like I had stripped down in the triage room and just had my robe on. And so then my doula, she's like goes behind me. I'm on my hands and knees and there's this picture of her. She's like lifting up the back of my robe to like look to see if she can see anything because like sounds I was making and stuff. Like you could tell like get pushed. Yeah. And I was like I could tell like there was so much pressure and stuff. And she's like, you guys might want to like come in here. Like I can see some vagina here. And so
like a bulge.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Then my blood sugar had dropped down. And so they had quickly brought me some juice and I was drinking that. And I felt great as soon as I drank that. And I was actually having a pause between the contractions this time, which was so different from my previous birth because before it had just been like there was no break. And so this time I was actually getting a break between them, but then it was like total fetal ejection, where I didn't push at all. My body was just pushing her out. And I'm like, okay. And so the nurses fled in there. I don't have I'm not admitted to the hospital at this point. I don't have like a wristband. I don't have anything. I'm just a woman on her hands and knees in the bathroom giving birth. And so there's like 3 or 4 nurses come flooding in. And so, yeah, they ended up catching the baby and she came out and I don't know, it was like 3 contractions or something, maybe 4. Like my body just completely pushed her out. Like, I don't think I pushed at all.
Yeah.
Like she just, pushed out. And I was like, what just happened? Because from the time that they checked me and said I was a 4 to the time of birth was 30 minutes.
Let's let that resonate with people who are listening because people get so discouraged when they hear a number like that, like, oh, I'm only 4 centimeters, especially if you're, second or third, fourth time mom, then there you go. 30 minutes later, you had a baby. So don't let those numbers.
Knowing the things that I knew, like at this point, I listened to so many birth podcasts. I'm an avid listener of Dr. Stu's podcast because I love how much information he gives. And he was the one that gave me the confidence to be like, no, I don't need my urine checked. No, I don't need this. No, I don't need that. And I knew all these things and I still was questioning myself and being like, oh, I'm only a 4. So just, don't listen to the numbers. I mean, it doesn't mean a whole lot of much.
Yeah. I'm assuming Sarah didn't make it.
No, Sarah did not make it.
Did they even call her?
So they had called her once they checked my cervix and she was on her way, but I think there was traffic like I had expected there to be. And so, so the nurses catch her and I sat down and they threaded her through my legs or whatever, gave her to me. And I'm sitting on the bathroom floor holding her. Then the doctor comes in after a little while wanting to cut the cord and whatever else. And I'm like, and both my friend and my doula are like, she wants to lay cord clamping. And he's like, well, we can wait 5 minutes, but then after that, we have to cut it so the blood doesn't go back to the placenta. And we were like, what?
Okay. Sorry. I'm going to let you finish talking, but just the idiocracy of that statement. But okay, go ahead.
I'm so thankful he didn't make it in there in the room for the actual delivery though. Like, I'm like, thank you, Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
you really did answer my prayers. That he was on the floor and he did not make it into the room for the delivery, because who knows what he would have done, or could have done. Like, I don't know. Anyways, so they waited the 5 minutes, and I was just so like I was on such a birth high. Like, in a normal circumstance, I would have been like, don't you dare touch it. Like, I would have been like mama bear, but I was on the birth high. And so I
Yeah.
was just like, whatever. They waited the 5 minutes and then they cut it, which my husband did say that like it was flaccid and white at that point, like when it was cut, which I don't recall. According to my husband, it was white anyways. So I mean, thankfully, and my placenta released and came out, I think like probably 5 minutes after we cut the cord. Like it came out like completely on its own. Like, no one touched it, no one did anything. Like, they just put a bowl under and caught it. But so chances are it had already been done pulsating, but like just the fact that they were, oh, I want to cut it. I want to cut it. I'm like, why? Why does it matter? Oh, my friend still rants about it. She's like, the audacity of that doctor. Oh. But yeah, what were you going to say about the blood going back to the placenta?
Just like the biology of that statement, like that's not the first doctor who has said that. And we've heard other doctors say that. We've heard stories of other doctors saying that. I'm like, then they don't actually know how it works. God designed this process brilliantly. If humans needed to cut that cord immediately, or like very, very sooner before the placenta came out, the Lord would have made that clear. Instead, he didn't. It's pretty obvious that after the placenta comes out, then that is the time to cut the cord. I mean, I'm not going to go into a super long tangent about this. Maybe I'll expand on it in like a Q&A episode or something, but you can't. The blood's not going to empty from the baby into the placenta. It like makes me close my eyes and rub my head like this to think that doctors are saying that to women to get them to cut the cord sooner, because they know that women are not in their right state of mind. They know that they're not in their thinking brain, and that they're super vulnerable and submissive and hormonal, and they'll just do whatever someone pressures them to do. Anyways, that statement is given to so many women as a reason to go ahead and cut their cord. Oh, so it doesn't go back to the placenta. And I'm like, oh.
So bizarre. I had never heard of something like that before. I was like, you've got to be joking me. So anyway, so the nurses are like, oh, so do you want to ask the doctor, do you want to like take care of her placenta? He's like, no, I'll let Sarah do that. And I'm like, yes, please. Good riddance. Goodbye. He just like left, like he knew that he was not really desired there. So.
Right.
And I think he also was just like completely like, what is going on? Because like even when I was in the triage room, he's asking me all these questions while I'm like verbally coping through a contraction. He's like asking me questions, expecting me to answer him. I'm like, have you never witnessed a physiological birth?
Right.
Like, do you realize I actually can't talk to you right now? So I'm just like, but that just goes to show me though that like God was answering my prayers even in that he didn't make it in the room for the delivery, that he was on the floor. He was there, but he didn't make it into the room in time.
Yeah.
To do who knows what,
Right.
And so
make you get up in the bed and all those things and bring tension into the room. And
I literally couldn't, but I'm sure he would have probably tried to make me.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think the nurses thought it was just like the coolest thing that they had seen. Apparently I was the talk of the hospital because no one had given birth in the bathroom in like umpteen years. And I was like, this is honestly sad.
It is sad because women give birth in the bathroom all the time at home.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. So yeah, I think it was probably like maybe 20 minutes or I don't know, something like that. After that, my midwife got there and she's like, excuse me, what were you doing? I was like, I told them to call you. And they didn't call you. So it wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she just like checked me out. I had moved over to the bed at that point and she checked me for tears and she's like, you are good. No, nothing here. And I was like, how? Like she came out so fast, but that just goes to show like when you listen to your body and like do what you need to do. Like it just aids your body. And I actually had my hand on her head as she was coming out too, which I think helped kind of support my perineum too. But yeah, I had not a nick, not a tear, nothing.
Nice.
So that was super exciting. And I mean, smooth recovery from there. So by the time she was born, I want to say it was like 8 o'clock, which we also didn't know that we were having a girl. And so after having two boys, I never realized how fun it would be to have a little girl until I had her. It's the best thing in the entire world. And so, yeah, I was just on cloud nine. It was the best. So yeah, my friend, she like, I had brought like a little hair bow in case it was a girl. And so she got some pictures, some really sweet pictures of her with her first hair bow and everything. It was really sweet. And so I loved the birth, like how it ended up turning out.
Yeah.
Would I've rather it been in a different environment for sure, but it ended up turning out just so beautifully. And so I was just like, thank you, Lord. Like you watched over me in this environment too. And like you were faithful and answered every one of my prayers. It was just a testimony, I guess, to the Lord's faithfulness, even when we were like questioning, okay, why is it going to be this way? You know?
Yeah.
So he had me through it all and he watched over me. And yeah, we stayed that night and she didn't really sleep at all that night just because she was fidgety and nursing and whatever else. So she didn't sleep at all that night, hardly at all. So I was pretty tired the next day. I was happy to stay another night, just to rest up. The food there was not nearly as good. They did come in more often. The pediatricians were kind of like, oh, you don't want vitamin K and you don't want Hep B and you don't want. I was like, no, I don't. We've already. Oh, well, I just have to tell you blah 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 blah. And I'm like, and I just have to tell you that we already made an educated decision. So, and then we went home after that. So yeah, since she was born at 8 o'clock, then we had stayed that night and then the following night. Because I was like, I don't want to go home at night. I'd rather leave in the morning. So we went home after that. And that first night she didn't sleep. After that, she was like sleeping like 5 hour stretches through the night. She has been literally the dream baby. Slept so good, ate so good, like just dreamy. She's just like the joy of our life for sure.
Aw. How
Her
much
name
did...
is Sunny.
Oh,
With,
Sunny.
yeah,
I
Sunny
love
with an
that.
I. Some people thought that was a weird name, but it fits her personality to a T. It is just who she is. Like
Aw.
everyone that hears her name, they're like, that is the best name for her. It just fits her. And then her middle name is Rafaela after Jehovah Rapha, the God that heals. So,
Aw. I love
and yeah,
that.
she was 8 pounds then.
Oh, look
So
at that.
she was my littlest baby so
Yeah.
far.
That's
So
amazing.
sweet.
So I imagine postpartum with her went pretty smoothly considering she was a good sleeper, she was a good nurser, you didn't tear, no traumatic like upper respiratory infection NICU stay, like all the things you...
Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah. It was dreamy with her. Actually, when she was like 6 months old, we actually were able to buy a house and moved into a house. And so that's been really nice having more space with the kids. And
Yeah.
she's just been an amazing baby. I absolutely love having a little girl. I mean, I
Yeah.
love my boys too, and all the boisterous things and the fun stuff that comes with them. And watching them with her is so sweet too. But
Yeah. Like the baby sister. Yeah.
they're so protective of her, and it's really sweet. So I did end up in the hospital with my thyroid going crazy 3 months postpartum with my last baby. But
Oh, really?
yeah, and that was an adventure. So if there are any other moms out there that deal with Hashimotos, seek out functional health medicine, like a functional health doctor. Get rid of the mainstream doctors. They do not help.
Yeah.
Put Band-Aids on bullet holes. And so, yeah, I've been on a bit of a health journey with a functional health doctor for the past 2 years now, I guess, because it was 2 years ago. And I feel better thyroid wise than I ever have. And they've done great things for me. And you make some adjustments in your life, and it's a commitment financially and lifestyle wise. But if there are other moms out there that are dealing with thyroid stuff and it is hard and exhausting, seek out someone with functional medicine training because it has changed my life. So
that's good to
yeah.
know. Thank you for sharing that. So are you guys, now that you're pregnant with your fourth, I mean, obviously we can't go into the birth story because baby's still inside
Yeah.
of you, but just curious, what are your plans for this fourth birth in terms of like location and everything?
So we are, Lord willing, planning to do a home birth this time, which I'm very excited about. I'm just praying that everything goes really well. My midwife is like an hour away. And so I'm like, you know what? She might make it there or she might not, depending how this labor goes. Because it seems like my active labors have been getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just turned 28 weeks yesterday. So I'm in the final stretch now, the 12 weeks of microwave minutes. So I say, it's honestly flown by so far, but I'm like, I feel like the last trimester, I feel like it kind of typically drags by, but we spend a lot of days by the pool. Our subdivision has a really great pool. So we just hang out at the pool and sun and get the kids' energy out and living life. And it's just been peaceful. It's been a very peaceful pregnancy. Like having, it was a big priority of mine to have a midwife who was a Christian. And so even though there was like most or midwives in the area that I could have used, I didn't necessarily feel at peace with using them because I didn't feel like we're on the same page spiritually. So I just prayed about it and I feel like God led me to this midwife and she's been really great. She's really respectful of any choices that I make. She's like totally for, full autonomy. And yeah, we did do the 120-week ultrasound and everything looked fantastic. And we're waiting to find out the gender till birth with this one too. And we plan to have the option for water birth. We'll see if it happens or not. I'm trying to hold everything very loosely because just never know how birth is going to go. It could be a really long, hard labor, or it could be a really fast labor where the midwife doesn't make it. We know a few people that have had those too. So, and I'm just, like holding it with very open hands and just asking that God just shows us whatever needs to happen and that everything is safe and goes well, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to have you come back and share your home birth story and, whenever you're ready after postpartum. I know postpartum is a time. So whenever you're ready after the fact.
For sure. Oh, and we're praying for a good sleeper.
Yes.
I'm like, please, Lord, let this baby be a good sleeper like our last one.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
That's always a huge help. So.
Well, I'm super happy for you, and I'm so grateful that you were willing to come and share your stories and hopefully come back and share your next one.
Yeah, I would love to.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. You can reach me at Surrendered Birth Services on Instagram or email me at contact@surrenderedbirthservices.com. Be sure not to miss an episode by hitting the follow button. Also, we'd love for you to leave a written review of the show so that more people's births and lives can be changed by the love of Jesus and the empowerment of accurate birth education. If you really enjoyed this episode in particular, please take a screenshot of it and post it to your Instagram story, tagging Surrendered Birth Services. If you would like to be a guest on the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, please click the link in the episode show notes to fill out your interest form. Also, if you're interested in taking my childbirth classes, birth consultations, or having me as your birth doula, please click on the link in the show notes to take you to my website for online and in-person options. Just as a reminder, this show is not giving medical advice, so please continue to see your personal care provider as needs arise. We hope you have a great week. And remember, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands.
He's like, Mommy, how long are you going to be in the hospital? Like, how long do you have to go there or whatever? I was like, well, we're not planning on going to the hospital this time. We're planning on having the baby at home. And he's like, oh, you mean we're having a home birth? And I was like, yeah, we are. So like, he thinks that's pretty cool.
I do too. I think that's pretty cool.